sitting here with Graham Blyth in his home in Oxfordshire. And Graham is one of the founder members of Soundcraft Electronics, which he started back with Phil Doddridge in 1973. Graham not only is a whiz at electronics, but he's also a very renowned organist. And I'm going to talk to him about his career and how he's got this far. Graham, hello.
Hello.
I haven't seen you for a long time.
It's been a while,
it's been quite some time. But of course, I had my first ever job with you in the audio industry. I worked as receptionist at Soundcraft back in the 80s. And I remember you coming in and you were in the middle of designing lots of amazing consoles. And at that point, Soundcraft was based in central London.
Yes, Great Sutton Street.
Yeah, in Great Sutton Street. That's right.
And then we expanded to have, I think, almost all the floors.
But before that, the company had been going for 10 years. How did it come into existence?
I was introduced to Phil, and Phil was working with a chap called Paul Dobson up in Cheshunt, Hertfordshire, called Rotary Speaker Developments.
Right, okay.
Paul designed a rotary speaker, a bit like a Leslie, but not. And they needed somebody to do mixers, and that's how Phil must have said to Malcolm, do you know anybody who involved in mixers? I studied electrical engineering, got a degree from Bristol University, which was really about machines and generators and stuff like that. We did like about a week of electronics. That seemed, we were introduced to the transistor, and that was really it. Never built anything. It was a good general engineering thing, so of course I did lots of maths and all that, so I was sort of technically armed, so nothing would faze me, so I could kind of turn myself in any one of many directions.
Okay. And of course you were already a musician, weren't you? You studied music as well, quite extensively.
Yes, I had a scholarship to Trinity College of Music as a junior.
Right.
I've always done music, and I was a chorister when I was young.
Yeah.
I sang for Benjamin Britten at the Albury Festival.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Gosh. So it was a really good combination then of your musical background and your electronics engineering background that all came together at the same time. And also that point in time when people were looking for PA systems.
I went back to Bill Kelsey because he was looking for a bit of help putting together a big 40-channel mixer for Emerson, Lake and Palmer for the 1970 Isle of Wight Festival, which was ELP's first big year.
Okay.
I think. And so I used to go to his flat in Albert Place, and the floor is covered in modules and knobs and switches and stuff, and I helped him put all the modules together and get it all
to create this beast
all
of a console.
Then I left that and went kind of full time with Bill at Kelsey Morris in Albert Place.
Okay.
Not in Bill's flat anymore, but actually with Jim Morris.
Right.
In a little place off Notting Hill Gate.
It was Notting Hill, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Notting Hill. I just helped build things. You know, I didn't do any design. I just built things. And Bill and I had a bit of a falling out. I wasn't very good politically. And Bill was a very gentle man. He was lovely. And I think I was a bit of an arrogant son of a bitch, really, to use the American phrase, with nothing to justify the arrogance, frankly.
Yes, but you knew you would have one day, presumably. You knew where you were going.
I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, I went off, took my scope lead with me, stethoscope, and I went off back home to Epsom and built a console. You know, I knew how to lay out circuit boards by then, and built a console, a lot based on what Bill had done before. And then I was beginning to flex my muscles a little bit and trying to make what I thought were improvements to the EQ, make a better, more flexible equalizer.
Okay.
Which I kind of did. And that got the attention, so Bill was interested in that.
So you and Bill were still friends, it was all right with Bill.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I got the phone call from Malcolm at HH who'd mentioned me to Phil Doddridge.
Yeah.
And then we got together, and then the rest is history. We were on Cheshunt High Street.
Right.
Okay. Where Paul quotes Basher, unquotes Dobson, because he was a bit physical, was building cabinets and I was building mixers, and Phil was running around doing sales and marketing and glad-handing people and making introductions and
which is
doing
very
what
good
he
at.
does so well.
Yes.
We carried on putting up with Basher's tantrums until we decided to actually go it alone.
Okay.
And that's really when Soundcraft happened.
Yeah. And Phil, of course, we're going back into a little bit of Phil's history, he worked for Led Zeppelin, hadn't he?
Yes, he was a drum roadie for John Bonham.
Right, so he brought this rock and roll kind of aesthetic with
yes,
him.
and so he knew about touring.
Yeah.
So he understood about touring and the basic things that you need to do, and how it could be made better because of having to keep putting PA systems and he was the drum roadie, but he was also after that, he'd moved on to sort of just basically being a roadie, working with various bands.
And getting kit in and out of venues and all that kind of practical stuff that you needed. Because, of course, you then went on to build the first flight-cased mixing console, didn't you?
Yes. The very first was the Series 1.
That was your first design?
That was the very first one, built into a Cripple Creek flight case. Because the wooden-framed ones that we'd used were all put into Cripple Creek flight cases, so we knew that we knew the guys. And I'm pretty sure it was Phil's idea, saying, why couldn't we just build it in a flight case? Now, this is all very well and good, but of course, the very first ones I've got, of course your listeners can't see this, but you've got a flat piece of metal, you've got printed circuit boards hanging down from it, who are fixed on to the front panel by the nuts on the pots. Yeah. Okay. So the pots are soldered into the board. So if you take this flight case, hold it parallel to the ground and drop it, right, what happens is that, of course, all the pots break and the boards fracture and the whole thing actually destroys itself. And, of course, it easily happened. They used to mount, somebody would stash a flight case on end and somebody would knock it over.
Oh, dear.
Now, if you're lucky, it knocked so that the pots would be face down, so the board would just
crash down.
A minor crash. Yeah. But if it crashes down and we hadn't put anything underneath the boards to support them, then of course they're just going to just smash out. So obviously, immediately we put a block of wood across with a bit of felt on it.
So lots of trial and error, basically.
And that fixed that. So we learned things like that, and started using glass fibre as well for the boards. So learned so much from the early Series 1. Yeah. And then that became the Series 1S with a sweep MIDI EQ, which became a classic, my classic EQ. Really absolute minimalist design, just enough to do the job and no more, and just keep it simple, stupid. That philosophy. Yeah. Nice mic app with a Sauter transformer, and that did really, really well for us. So the delightful console, the 1S. And we use these 41-10 pots from the German company Prey. Yeah. So it really feels, click. So you reach out in the dark and go, aux 1 wants 2 clicks. And you just
really reassuring.
Yes, because we don't translate in terms of degrees with naturally, it's not what we do. We're good about up and down and we're good about left and right. Okay. But rotational movement is kind of hard to judge.
Right, yes.
Now, okay, you do it by your ears, but if you just know that it's a busy mix, if you just, I really just want a tweak on that snare drum, so
you can
2 clicks.
Click it, yeah.
And say, got it. That's now just suddenly it's there. Yeah. And that's what it's as subtle as a DB sometimes.
And have you? I mean, you've still been designing consoles until fairly recently, haven't you? You were behind the SI range. Are you still designing?
I'm mostly enjoying playing the piano and organ these days.
Yeah, and who can blame you?
I haven't been inside my CAD package for quite a while. We've talked about building a console for here. Yeah. But we're probably not going to do that. But we've got a 2400 which we're refurbishing. Right. And
I should mention actually at this point that we are at Graham's home, and he and his daughter and his daughter's partner are in the process of building a mega recording studio.
Yes.
Next to Graham's.
I'm not really involved in that again, apart from the funding. I've got a concert hall. Right. They've got a recording studio with access, of course, to the big room.
And you're holding organ recitals here quite regularly now, Amy.
Yeah, I do recitals for the Audio Engineering Society, which started in 93.
Okay. And that was going to New York?
That was, so that was Soundcraft's 20th anniversary. Right. Was the first organ recital and the famous trip down the Hudson. Okay. For Soundcraft.
Okay. Great. In fact,
you were there, weren't you?
No, I wasn't at that one. No, I wasn't.
You weren't?
I've gone back to do my degree in 93, so I was kind of out of the industry in those few years.
Yes, and then you reappeared as a fully fledged media person.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Here I am still. But, I wasn't there at that one. But, and of course you've gone on to St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Grace Cathedral, San Francisco. But mostly San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, where the AESs have been in America.
Yeah, so now of course they're in...
do the concerts over there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's quite amazing that you've had these very parallel passions that have gone on in tandem over the years. You've had your mixing console design. You really pioneered the art of mixing, I would say. You've been behind some of the best mixing consoles that have ever been designed. But also, you've carried on this amazing musical career, and it just seems to be developing for you.
Before 1988, I think the year before, I found myself a serious piano teacher. I hadn't had a serious teacher forever. Really? Okay. Not since basically graduating and leaving Trinity College of Music as a junior, not going on into music education. But I always played. but I was conscious of lots of technical things that I needed to improve.
Yeah.
So I found myself a really serious piano teacher, Zulimita Aronofsky, and totally turned around my piano playing. You know, I started to learn, to seriously address technique as distinct from just looking at the music. I was always very good with the music, good musician, I'm a good accompanist. I listened well, I worked with musicians well, but I couldn't do a solo recital.
Okay.
I wouldn't have put myself up for it.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that I would do a solo recital on my 40th birthday.
Oh, I see.
Right. So therefore,
your
sometime
goal.
during my 38th year, I think, me even being 39, I may have left it that late. I went to Zulimita with the aim of doing something on my 40th birthday somewhere in London. And in fact, we did it in Titfield Street, the Sony.
Yeah, the big Sony studio.
Yes, the CBS Sony.
CBS, yeah.
Yes, that went really very well. You know, that was pretty good. And so I just carried on. And then I thought, why not do the same thing for the organ?
Yeah.
So I went to Robert Munns, an organ teacher. And that resulted in the 1993 organ concert in St Thomas's, New York.
Oh, okay.
So that was the aim for that one, which
Right.
combined with Soundcraft's 20th anniversary.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of these major dates that sort of
these
dictated what I did.
milestones. And have you been out every year then to the AES to do one of these?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I used to do all the European ones as well, of course. So therefore, there's New York, Europe, Los Angeles or San Francisco, Europe, New York, Europe.
So you had two.
Oh, well, it'll be Europe every
2
year, of
years,
course.
that's
Absolutely.
right.
So always 2 concerts a year.
Wow.
And then more recently, Francis Rumsey has started to do the Europe one, which suits me because I was sort of moving back. I was starting to not be at Soundcraft as much. I was sort of kind of semi-retired.
Yeah. And you've now got your place here where you can do organ recitals in the
Indeed.
comfort of your own
Indeed.
home.
Yeah.
And tell us about the organ that you've installed.
It's a 4-manual, 80 or so speaking stop, 32 channels of audio, which combines 32 channels of actual HF and down to high LF speakers spread across that organ case, which you've seen.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the big subs.
Right. So was this one of your long-held dreams then to have one of these organs? Have you wanted one for ages?
I've always done a digital organ, which I voiced myself for quite a long time.
Right.
It started as a 3-manual, and that was in the house here, just in the room.
Yes, I remember that one.
Hall. I thought, okay, let's do it properly. And I'd done lots of organ in America, you know, serious instruments. Sometimes adding some digital stops to pipes, sometimes doing it all digital.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of my work in America now. Very
so the
enjoyable.
2 passions have completely coincided now and they're running together. And I guess presumably they've sort of really fed into each other, have they?
It's very nice because I don't have any technical limitations at the level in which we need to do the things I do, like the voicing of the organ and the setting up of a sound system, you know, and how to sort of structure the specification across 32 channels. You'll hear the organ later on this afternoon, I hope. Yeah. And you can actually hear, that's that up there. And that's this down here, and you know, these divisions of the organ are around inside the case, and you can quite clearly see, yeah. So you get this wall, just as you would from the pipe organ, wall of sound coming out.
Yeah, lovely.
And I'm so happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yes, it can always be better. It can always be better, but at some point you have to say, no, I really can't be asked to keep on screwing with this specification.
It's
you know,
all right now.
I like it. It's fine. Leave it alone.
Good.
It is what it is. You can't keep changing a pipe organ between Sundays, thinking, I think I'm doing this voluntary after service, and I really need a little bit more trumpet. You know, no, in real life you can't do that.
So how often do you get people in there listening to you?
Well, we do concerts kind of once a month for most months of the year.
Right.
No, that's piano concerts, chamber music, string quartets, wind quintets, occasional organ recital. You know, anything I take to America for the AES, I play here first.
Okay.
But it's not organ all the time at all. It's mostly.
So you work with local musicians.
Piano, and you know, I got a wonderful Fazioli and a lovely Shigeru Kawai.
Yeah.
And super.
Lovely. What a fantastic thing to be doing for your... I don't want to say retirement, because I don't think of you as being retired. You're still very, very busy. But you're doing more and more of what you love.
Yes.
Where your heart is.
Yes. And I keep the piano technique up by creating challenges, basically, by working with other musicians. I got a concert with Aussie girl called Priscilla Daniels, who played the Bruch with me for my 70th birthday concert with the Oxford Sinfonia in the church here. She's stunning, absolutely stunning player.
Do you get involved in the pro audio industry at all these days, or do you just sort of go and visit the AES?
Very little. I visit the AES largely as organist. You know, I'm off practicing while they're doing the show.
While they're at the show. And Amy was telling me she's actually going around and visiting all the equipment stands and talking to people about what they've got now, and she's actually really excited to be doing that. So would you have ever thought you were going to?
She's a very bright girl.
Yeah.
learns fast.
Yeah.
And obviously they all love talking to her.
Yes, because that still is in our industry. I hate to say it, but it still is unusual for a woman to go around to know what she's talking about, what she's looking for. And she's got her own recording studio that she wants to equip.
Yes. And she's anxious to learn, so she listens well and she picks up on things.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The industry itself has changed hugely, hasn't it, since we were in Great Sutton Street in the 80s. Back then it was, I think one of the reasons I loved working for the industry, I didn't know anything about it when I first started. I had no idea what a mixing console was. I was doing some temporary work. Someone put me there for a week to be receptionist at Soundcraft. And I remember saying, what the hell is a mixing console? Having no idea what this really was. Falling in love with the company, and the people were amazing. Everyone was so passionate about what they did. They were so friendly. You'd get engineers and producers from the studios all over London walking into reception with a mixing console module under their arm because they needed to get some spare parts. And they'd be coming in to get the parts and do it themselves. And at the end of the week, they offered me the job to stay. And I found myself accepting.
Oh, we loved you, so...
So it was really strange though, because I had no intention of making my career in that industry. But it just happened. And of course that is still there. The characters are still there. There's maybe not so many these days. But it has become much more corporate, hasn't it?
Well, unfortunately, yes. It's inevitable that the companies become big by acquisition, natural growth to a certain point, and then they start thinking, well, we don't actually do that. It's to do with what we do, so we should maybe have so Harman. Obviously, at one point thought, we really ought to be getting mixing companies. So who are we going to go with?
Yes.
And because we had quite a good presence in America because of the work of Wayne and Betty.
And Betty. Yeah, of course. And you had a very strong network of distributors, I seem to remember, not just in America, but all across the world.
And see, we shared already with Harman in so many places. The Harman dealer was the best local dealer because Harman picks the best, and we were there, happened to be there as well, and so we were kind of part of that extended family for quite a while.
Yeah,
and
so it kind of made sense.
I suppose it was not entirely unexpected, though. I mean, we weren't thinking about it. Not entirely unexpected that they would come calling.
And you stayed. Phil obviously after a few years went off and did Focusrite, and he's been obviously very successful in that. But
he's done so well. Very impressed with Phil. He's very good at finding the right kind of people. Focusrite is a huge success.
Yeah, he's made a real success of it. Yeah. But you've stayed the course, and you've stayed with, and that's quite unusual as well, isn't it, for a founder to stay that long after the company is sold?
Because I didn't have any particular ambition, I think.
And I suppose because when Harman acquired Soundcraft, it wasn't as if you were working in the sales and marketing team. You were the designer, so presumably you could just carry on designing.
So if it was relevant to me, I would get involved. I was always ready to pitch in about things like how the digital consoles would be. The thing that most disappoints me is that on the Soundcraft digital desk, as with the studios, there's no detents on the encoders. And I really don't like that, and I've been on at them for years, ever since the first thing, but they've sort of left it that way.
Really?
Whereas I've always wanted to be able to reach out in the dark and go click, click.
Click, click, click.
Just the same with the detented pots.
Yeah.
You just want to go click, click. Because we don't feel rotation naturally. We're okay up and down and left and right, but actually how our hands turn something is not something that you know. Now,
and especially in the dark.
You use your ears, but as I said earlier, you can't always be clear. You want a little bit more snare, and you think you'll just try 2 clicks. If it doesn't do it, you give it another one.
It's easy to overdo it, I suppose, when you're...
Yes, or not enough. I don't know. It's just, I like things to be precise. I think that's it. I think that's about accuracy. Yeah. Which is what's involved in, playing the piano and playing the organ.
Absolutely, it's accuracy. But I mean, that's not a bad thing for you to say, is it? The fact that this massive and ever growing. I mean, you're owned by Samsung now. The fact is that there's only one thing that you really are disappointed about after all those years of an increasingly corporate organisation running your business.
Yes.
And all they haven't done is they haven't put clicky pots in.
Yes.
That's not bad.
Because you can, they're there. You can buy something. I'm sure it fits in the same hole. PCB holes.
Yeah. But apart from that,
haven't done it.
You've basically been left alone to carry on your design work and carry on with the Soundcraft range.
I've been very fortunate that largely I could drive. I was pretty much always. I won't say always. Sometimes there were irritating things that I didn't have enough involvement with early on. But generally, I was always involved enough to have a feeling of ownership of the product, not the owner, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
but
yes.
Definitely part of the
This
joint
is something
effort
that
and thoroughly supporting all aspects of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that went on right the way through Harman.
Right. Well, that's absolutely brilliant.
I've been very lucky, Caroline. And finding Phil Dudderidge. Or rather, in this case, it's actually Phil finding me.
They found you, yes.
You know,
yes, they needed someone that knew their electronics and not just their bands and their touring life.
Yeah.
What would you say, if you think back over all your products, what are you most proud of?
I think I've got a great affection for the Series 1S, which was the one, it had the click pots, with the 4-band with 2 sweet mids in EQ, and it had the transformerless mic pre's, because the transistor mic pre with no transformer was something that happened during my career.
Okay.
And now what happened is that a company, and I can't remember who it was, put a thing called a trans amp in a sort of 1-inch square by about 3/8 inch tall block in resin.
Yeah.
A little circuit board with pins, and that was it. And it was transistors.
Okay.
Right, no transformer, and it was stunningly quiet. So we all started scratching our heads and thinking. And then you used to go and you say, hang on a minute. I remember a Wireless World edition, and I used to keep them, where something about noise and current came up. And I went and found it, and I then realised what was going on. However, at the same time, somebody out there had depotted one of these things and knew what the transistors were. And they have this particular characteristic of a low RBE. And you drive current through it. Normally you think too much current, too much noise, but no. What it does is matches to a much lower resistor source impedance.
Okay.
So normally, with conventional currents in first stages of mic preamps, you put about 100 microamps through it, and you need therefore sort of 10k kind of input resistors. But we wanted to get to sort of we've got 200 ohm, 150 ohm microphones coming at us here, and it would have just been a gale of noise. So you need to put a lot more current down in order for it to change the characteristic to the right point on the curve of the transistor, and that was what it was. And there's so many possible transistors. Now we went with what's considered to be the transistor of choice, which had a particular parameter that we all loved. But there's lots of others similarly out there. And so this little thing here, the Series 1S, had this transformerless mic pre, and it was so quiet.
Right. So that's a real turning point for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're really quieter than a transformer.
What was your first digital console?
I can't take any claim for the digital. I don't have DSP knowledge. I don't do digital high-speed computational software. But obviously it needs a switchable mic pre.
Yes.
So the mic pre is with me. You've still got to have this front end that is analog before it gets to the digits.
Yes.
So it's still there. I was obviously involved in the early things in terms of feature set, but it's pretty well defined that you really have to do everything that you'd want on a big touring desk. So it's got to be 4-band all parametric EQ, for example. So and then you just get the team going. But of course, by that time we were in Harman, and Harman had Studer, and Studer were already in digital. So what we brought to the party was a more interesting mic amp.
Right.
It's actually quieter than the sort of thing they were using.
I see. Okay. And it's been a long and glorious career for you, and it's
generally glorious.
Yes.
Yes, of course, things that didn't work out so well, but normally you knew that pretty much at prototype stage that, look, this isn't going to fly. It's either going to be, to make it right, it's going to be too expensive, and or we're just not hitting the right point of the market.
Yeah.
But generally, I think the things that Phil and I decided to do, and again, big tribute for Phil here, who instinctively kind of and was out there all the time, talking with the guys, talking with the roadies, much more than I was. I was a bit of an incommunicative bastard.
But you were the genius, darling, in the warehouse, who was kind of the workshop,
yes,
inventing.
We keep them locked up in the corner. It's just better that way.
Come out when you've got a new console for us.
Yes. No, don't go and see Graham. He's having a bad day.
But I think you said it yourself. Phil was one of those lucky meetings. The two of you getting together, you created Soundcraft. And
yes, and of course he's such a well-balanced person.
Yes, but you were almost like different sides of the same coin. Basically, you were going in the same direction, but you both brought very, very different skills and talents to that role. So. And it's a whole new chapter for you now. It feels you're turning another corner.
I'm really concentrating a lot on the music, on the performance. I had a wonderful 70th birthday. I did the Brook with Priscilla and did the Vortex New World with a great Oxford Orchestra.
How amazing! What a way to celebrate.
Pretty much an amateur orchestra, but amateurs. By amateurs, I mean people who are most of them are ex-national youth or county youth.
Yeah.
That level of
player.
They've
been playing a long time.
And they like to play together because they've got good players.
Yeah.
Like to play with other good players.
Yeah.
And they're happy to work with me. So
I bet they are.
It was good.
And to come here as well and use your facility.
Yeah.
Graham, it's been a pleasure.
Right.